Detective Grogan wrote up a Ramey warrant for the arrest of Scott Peterson. And I called the Department of Justice. They have a surveillance team. And I asked them to find Scott in San Diego and just watch him. We got the warrant. And, the judge asked us, it's kind of just a handshake deal with the judge. He signed $1 million warrant, but he said, can you not arrest him until the DNA comes back? And so we agreed, but we have a warrant and signed in hand. And so Scott's hard to find. I mean, I had a tracker on his car, but he sold it in San Diego. So we found him through the wiretap on his phone. So we found him. We set up surveillance on him. He knew it right away.
California Department of Justice was just a great agency to work with. One of their lead agents, Ernie Lamone, fantastic. His whole crew, great guys, skilled agents. And they had Scott under surveillance. So we were able to get an arrest warrant for Scott, pre-complaint arrest warrant. And Al Carter, Al Brocchini, Craig Grogan, and I, the four of us, jumped in 2 separate cars, and we drove down to San Diego. And then the next day, we started following Scott with great assistance from DOJ. And Scott knew he was being tailed. Claims were he thought it was the media. Maybe he did. Maybe he thought it was us. Who knows? Only he knows. Only he would tell. Probably won't, but he could. And we started following him, but his driving was becoming dangerous. He was a pretty good driver.
He started driving like crazy. He was flipping off the people surveilling him. He was calling his brother. We could hear the phone call. He thinks they're private eyes or they're news people. He doesn't know they're cops. But he's telling his brother, I can't really come golfing with you today because I got these photographers following me, and if they see me on the golf course, that's not going to look good. But he's driving so bad that even the helicopter that we had watching him lost him. He just would drive very fast, slam his brakes on the freeway and pull to the side, and 4 or 5 undercover cars would be going by him. He would go into these neighborhoods and do U-turns, and he just drove terrible. And it got to the point where it was dangerous.
He'd be in the left lane, and he'd cross over 3 lanes of traffic, take an off-ramp. We couldn't do that. We'd roll the car. And so he was able to avoid and evade our tail on him. One of the agents saw him cross an intersection right in front of him. And so the chase was back on. It was no lights and siren, but finally our concern was, and Craig Grogan's call was, because he's a case agent, was we need to make the arrest on Scott even before the DNA results come back. And the arrangement was the judge gave us the arrest warrant with the request to hold the execution of the warrant until the DOJ DNA results were announced. But the concern was that erratic driving was going to injure one of us or somebody who wasn't even connected to the case. So
it was dangerous for the undercover officers, and we're thinking, here we are holding this $1 million warrant, and if one of those guys gets killed or a civilian gets killed by this driving, is the judge going to back us up, or are we going to be looking dirty? So we just made a decision, arrest them. And we called it into the undercover guys and just said, just arrest them.
That's when he was arrested at Torrey Pines at the entrance of the golf course. Talked to him right there at the scene of the arrest. No outrage, no protests. You got the wrong guy. You guys are rookies. This is amateur hour. You guys, you don't know what you're doing. I mean, he just was pleasant as usual. And anyway, hair was dyed, of course, trying to disguise himself. And that was pretty much his demeanor. And I know if it was me, I would have been protesting, making a lot of noise about it. But Scott, he's a pretty cool cucumber for the most part when it comes to these things.
The DA didn't come in yet, so we had him under arrest. We took him to a DOJ office. I took a bunch of pictures of him to show that, he was not beat up or anything. And we searched his car. And I mean, he had a lot of money. He had $14,000 or something. He had 5 cell phones. He had IDs from his brother and other people. He had a tuxedo in there, but camping gear. I mean, he was ready for anything.
Clothing that would work for an elegant event at the yacht club to hiking boots if you're camping in the Sierras. When a guy is arrested in California, if he's arrested outside of the county where the charges are going to be filed, he has a right to say, I'm not going back with you guys. And he can request being booked into the local jail in the jurisdiction where he's arrested. And I was kind of hoping Scott would do that. I didn't want to drive back up to Modesto with him in the back seat. But Scott's pretty pleasant. I'll go back with you. I was like, oh, great. That's fantastic. So anyway, it's like a 6-hour drive from San Diego to Modesto. And you're not going to have him cuffed behind his back for a drive like that. So you put him in ankle cuffs with a chain between them so you can walk, but they don't have enough length so he can't run. And then you have a chain belt that goes around him with a padlock and handcuffs that are at the hips. So he can have his hands here. He can, scratch his face or something like that, but he's cuffed so he can't fight you and he can't, choke you when you're driving. And he's sitting behind me and we drive and Grogan's next to him. Al Carter and Al Brocchini are in their car. And we get the call from DOJ that the results confirmed that the remains were Conner and Laci. Craig tells that after the call to Scott, and he makes like a little sniffle, like a half-hearted attempt to show some emotion. And I'm kind of looking in the mirror at him, and it just wasn't anything. And I thought, well, that pretty much cinches it for me, because a guy who kills his wife 4 months earlier, that's about the reaction he's going to have. We drive a few more miles. We're getting into Bakersfield and getting gas, and cops like to eat. I mean, you can tell by some of them because they're kind of large, and some of them maybe not so. But we still got another 3.5 hours from Bakersfield back to Modesto, 3 hours. And so I open up the back door of the car. I'm putting gas in it, and I asked Scott, I said, hey, we're going to get a bite to eat. We'll feed you if you want to eat with us. And he was pleasant the whole time. He wasn't kicking the seat or going wacky or anything like that. And just told him, well, we're probably going to get fast food. We're not going to do a sit down at Outback. And he said, well, what are you getting? And I said, well, I know there's an In-N-Out burger. People that don't live in California, In-N-Out burger is pretty popular in California. Pretty good burgers. And so I said, well, we'll stop there and grab you something if you want something. And he just kind of gave a thoughtful look. And he said, I'll have a double with cheese, a fry, and a small vanilla shake. And I'm thinking, well, that's a pretty good order other than the cheese. I don't know why you'd put cheese on a burger, but people do. And I said, yeah, you got it. And closed the door. One last piece of circumstantial evidence that told me that he did it. If you've ever experienced a death in a family, trauma like that, food is pretty low on your priority list. Being able to eat after receiving news like that, especially when you contrast it, and this is a thing that I think some people miss out on. When you look at the interviews, whether it was Diane Sawyer, Ted Rollins, or Gloria Gomez, and they're talking to Scott, and he's faking this emotion about missing out on his son. And then when he's finally given this information that his son is dead, his wife is dead, and he still wants a burger, I guess you can still think that he didn't do it, but I'm not part of that camp.